Chapter 29 Unbuttoning. Beep, beep, beep. When Fanchio pressed the digits of his door lock password, Shulang courteously turned his gaze away. The final number lit up, and with a soft click, the lock released. Fanchio used his only uninjured hand to pull open the door. Director Yu, gracing my humble abode today, what an honor. Your presence truly makes this shabby place shine. As the door swung open, the air from inside and outside mingled, carrying with it faint traces of a woody fragrance that intertwined and drifted out, gently teasing Shulang's nostrils. This scent, where had he smelled it before? Where was it? What are you thinking about? Come in. Fanchio stood in the foyer waiting for him, his eyes holding a keen sparkle even in the weary midnight hours. Shulang hesitated for a moment before stepping into the room. Fanchio had injured his hand, quite seriously, in fact with a transverse fracture of the metacarpal bone. He had just undergone fixation and been fitted with a splint at the hospital. Now, with many everyday tasks proving inconvenient, there were some things he simply couldn't manage on his own, so Shulang had no choice but to help. The front door slowly closed behind them. As the door panel shut and the final sliver of light vanished, it felt as though the last glimmer of hope had been cut off. The uninjured fingers moved deftly. With a sharp click, the door was locked again, but this time from the inside. A faint excitement flickered across Fanchio's face, his gaze sharp and greedy, fastened on Shulang's back. Those handsome eyes narrowed slightly. His prey had walked right into the trap. Now, how should he play? You can't move your right hand. If there is anything inconvenient for you to manage or do, then just tell me. I'll help you. Fanchio had injured his right hand, and it seemed as if his left had caught the same affliction. Though he claimed, "There's nothing I need you to help with," he couldn't even manage to take off his own coat properly. Shulang walked over and helped him remove his coat and suit. The man's arm span was long. Even as he assisted, he was able to keep a measured distance from Fanchio. The two of them moved from the entryway into the living room. Fanchio switched on the lights. The glow that gradually filled the room was soft, not so bright. This place was one Fanchio had rented. A newly built high-end apartment, fully furnished with sleek, modern essentials. The decor was in shades of black and grey, minimalist yet sharp. Even so, the space felt hollow. There were few personal belongings, so few that at first glance it might have been mistaken for an uninhabited model home. Only a single laptop sat on the solid wood desk, its screen dark and lifeless. Fanchio's gaze tightened for a moment. Then his brows relaxed as he smiled lightly. Do you know why I chose to rent this place? Because the view from the balcony is beautiful. Following his words, Shulang turned his gaze toward the window. Taking advantage of that moment, Fanchio walked to the table and slid the mouse. The darkened screen lit up, revealing the face of a man filled with yearning, identical to the one now staring into the deepening dusk. The mouse cursor hovered over the red cross icon in the corner. Fanchio closed the video recorded by the dashcam, then pressed his palm down and shut the laptop lid. From start to finish, his every motion was unhurried and composed. From here, you can see Wanfeng Mountain. Unfortunately, it's night now, so you can only make out its silhouette. A wave of scorching heat brushed against the back of Shulang's ear, the warmth of a man's body seeping through his skin from behind. They were standing too close, so close that Fanchio only needed to extend an arm to pull Shulang into his embrace. If it were in the past, Director Yu would have diffused such an awkward moment with ease and subtlety. But now, Fanchio was someone he considered a close friend. Shulang didn't have many friends, and among those few, Fanchio was the most unique, steady and mature, composed in his dealings, yet capable of acting spoiled and playful, clinging to people in that sticky, teasing way. They say that children raised in affection and indulgence tended to be more passionate and clingy, often expressing their goodwill through physical closeness. Unlike him, beneath Shulang's smooth exterior lay a detached nature shaped by years of hardship and restraint. Yu Shulang didn't like to admit it, but at times he did indulge Fanjo a little. Those well-timed bouts of cheekiness and that unconditional support often left him feeling both helpless and quietly warmed. He would think to deal with it coldly, to draw a line, yet his heart could never harden enough to follow through. But indulgence, there are different kinds of indulgence. The way Yu Shulang indulged Lucian was unconditional, whereas his indulgence toward Fancho was confined within certain boundaries. He clicked his tongue softly and raised a hand to push Fancho's head away, driving off that burning breath. His expression turned cool, signaling a silent warning. What do you usually do before going to bed? Is there anything that's difficult for you to manage with one hand? There is, actually. Fanjo gave an awkward little laugh. I just tried, couldn't undo the buttons on my shirt with my left hand. Hmm? Yushilang's gaze lowered, falling on the few fresh creases tucked across the collar of Fanjo's shirt. How about Director you lending me a hand? Fanjo took a step forward, tilting his chin slightly upward. Fuck. Yushilang stepped back and turned away, settling himself elegantly onto the sofa. Crossing one leg over the other, he shot Fancho a cool, imperious look. It's not like both your hands are disabled. Undo it yourself. This kind of proud, imperious Yushulang was a rare sight, and Fancho adored that side of him. He gave a low chuckle and sat casually on the low coffee table in front of the sofa. Using his left hand, he clumsily began to work at his shirt buttons to undo them. Both men had impossibly long legs and they were sitting face to face. But Fancho, as usual, couldn't behave. His knees brushed against Yushulang's from time to time. Under the white incandescent light, his slim-fit trousers carried an air of both restraint and seduction. The black stripes and silver-grey checks brushed lightly against each other, intertwining in a way that evoked a faint, lingering, tingling sensation. Suddenly, the black stripes drew sharply away. Yushulang rolled his eyes and cursed, useless. Fanxia was struggling to unbutton his shirt. His fingers fumbled with the button, pressing, turning, slipping. The crystal button, halfway through the buttonhole, slipped free and fell back into the place. Come here, Yushulang's voice was cold with scorn. Lower your head. The tall figure leaned closer, casting a dim shadow that slowly enveloped Yushulang's body, inch by inch, until even the crown of his head was swallowed by it. At this moment, Fanjo was only 2 fists away from him. When Yushulang's fingertips deftly undid the first button, he heard Fanxio let out a soft, wistful sigh. Director, you still dotes on me the most. Shut up. A faint flush bloomed across the pale tip of Yushulang's ear. Ever perceptive, Fanxio noticed that Yushulang's breathing faltered for a moment. He clenched his jaw slowly. Fanxio had a reaction. The space between the two men were exceedingly small. Fanxio's gaze roaming brazenly over Yushulang's face. He looked somewhat weary, with faint dark circles under his eyes, yet his handsomeness remained undiminished. Yushulang was the kind of handsome man who fit the general standard of attractiveness. In terms of looks alone, he leaned toward the refined and elegant type. However, his strong-willed personality and cool demeanor balanced out that scholarly gentleness, giving him an air that made him seem not so easy to mess with. Fancho's eyes trailed downward inch by inch until they settled on the lips. The wound there had already faded to just a faint red mark. That very mark, which had once stirred a sense of desolate regret in Fancho, now fanned the flames inside him, causing a dull, aching throb to stir in his lower body. With just a slight lean, he could kiss those lips. Fancho replayed their deliciousness over and over in his mind. So soft, so supple, so easily bullied, yielding and surrendering to whatever was demanded of them. The buttons were already half done. Yushulang's eyes held a cool indifference, his movements composed and unruffled, yet only he himself knew why he had averted his gaze and was holding his breath. This was an exceedingly captivating body. The skin had a healthy tone, the muscles firm and taut, with hard, smooth lines. His broad chest, long restrained by the fabric of his shirt, swelled the moment the buttons gave way, straining forward as though eager to break free. Even in stillness, it exuded a powerful allure. Shulang was gay, and both physically and mentally sound. No matter how strong his willpower, it was impossible for him to remain completely unaffected. He struggled to restrain himself, his fingertips moving with extreme lightness, avoiding any chance of contact with Fanshawe. The buttons were now undone to below the chest, and further down lay the waist. The distinctly segmented abdominal muscles were already faintly visible, clean, sharp lines, lean and robust, hinting at underlying strength. Unlike Shulang's preference for loose-fitting, oversized shirts, Fanshawe's shirt was tailored to his measurements, clinging closely to his skin and growing progressively narrower toward the waist. As another button came undone, Shulang's fingertips slid downward. Despite his utmost care, he unavoidably made contact with Fanshawe's body. The skin beneath his fingers felt resilient, sharply defined, and startlingly hot. His eyelashes trembled. Shulang instinctively tried to pull his hand back, yet at that very moment Fanshawe suddenly leaned in, his whole body pressing forward, large arms spreading as though to cage him completely within his embrace. Broad shoulders and a solid back exuded an overwhelming sense of pressure. Shulang reacted on instinct, pushing back his hand, still resting on the undone button, forced to press against that slick, firm skin. This sensation, Shulang's mind exploded. "What are you doing?" he growled, his voice low and fierce, close to Fanshawe's ear. The solid waist and abdomen rubbed against his palm for another moment before Fanshawe slowly straightened up. His uninjured hand waved a curtain remote control, which he had apparently just found, a note of excitement in his voice. "I've been looking for this forever, but couldn't find it. Turns out it was wedged in the sofa seam right behind you." The man's eyes curved at the corners, his tone deceptively coaxing, seeming gentle and amiable, yet his gaze held a profound depth. "Director Yu," he called out, "there are still 2 buttons left to undo." End of chapter 29. Chapter 30. Unable to play straight man game. Shulang turned over on the bed, still feeling utterly uncomfortable. All that met his eyes was darkness, so deep that even a faint shadow of the night could be seen. The curtains were thick, 3 layers at least, blocking out every source of light. Strangely enough, they felt quite fitting for Fanshawe. Reaching out, Shulang groped around the bedside until his fingers closed around the curtain remote. He pressed once to start, then again to pause. The curtain slowly parted, opening a narrow slit. Silvery moonlight spilled in at once like a flowing stream, bathing the unfamiliar bedroom in a soft, lucid glow. Shulang was sleeping in the guest room of Fanshawe's house. Half an hour ago, Fanshawe was looking at Shulang, who stood by the entryway preparing to leave, with an earnest expression. "Shulang, it's too late now. By the time you make it home, dawn will be breaking. Besides, you have been drinking. You can't drive. And it's not easy to get a ride from here." He had already changed into loungewear. The light slid down the smooth silk fabric, shimmering like rippling waves. The last 2 buttons of his shirt had been undone by Fanshawe himself, with great effort. He had done it slowly, his thumb occasionally brushing against the firm ridges of his abs. If it weren't for the splint blinding his other hand, Shulang would have had no hesitation in labeling the act as deliberate seduction. "You can sleep in the guest room." "Ever since I moved in, no one's ever stayed there," Fanshawe said as he approached, his tone soft and sticky with a touch of clinging sweetness. "Tomorrow morning I'll have to trouble Director Yu to give me a ride to work. It's impossible to get a taxi during rush hour." "I can drive over to pick you up in the morning, Fanshawe. I'm not used to staying overnight at someone else's place," Shulang declined. "The guest room has its own private bathroom. All the toiletries and beddings are new. Just think of it as spending the night at the hotel." Yu Shulang stared at Fan Zhou, catching the subtle movement of his injured fingers within the splint. The image of the doctor's repeated reminders surfaced in his mind. In the end, he could only agree reluctantly. Fan Zhou slid a glass of red wine toward Yu Shulang, his fingers probing into a swirl of warm, moist cloud of vapor. Yu Shulang had just taken a shower. A soft, enveloping warmth lingered on his skin, faintly misting the air around him. His cool, pale complexion was tinged with a delicate flush. His damp eyelashes clung together, casting faint shadows over his eyes, lending his entire person an air of gentle languor. He wore the same style of sleepwear as Fan Zhou, but in a different color, and somehow it looked entirely different on him. Black lent Fan Zhou a somber allure, a touch of poised danger hidden beneath its elegant depth, while the champagne shade draped over Yu Shulang's austerity softened it into something tender and entrancing. The sight alone made Fan Zhou's heart stir and drift. Yu Shulang lifted his eyes, raven black lashes heavy with moisture, and glanced at Fan Zhou. "Your hand's injured. You shouldn't be drinking." "I know. I only poured it for you." Fan Zhou sat beside him, tilting his head slightly as if weighing how to claim some credit for his earlier deeds. "Feel better after venting your anger today?" he asked. The heavy fringe of lashes lowered as Yu Shulang slowly took a sip of wine. "I don't think it was Bai Pengyu who did it." He looked toward Fan Zhou, his jaw tightening with sharp restraint. "It must be someone else." "Someone else?" Fan Zhou met his gaze calmly, his expression composed and unruffled. "Weren't you the one who followed the clues and found Bai Pengyu? Could you have forgotten the wrong person? If it wasn't Bai Pengyu, then why would he admit to it?" The dark red liquid swirled inside the crystal glass, glinting with a flowing hue like twilight clouds. Yu Shilang spoke slowly. "There are still things I haven't figured out. It's just that I don't think Bai Pengyu is the type who would sexually harass someone of the same sex. These spoiled young masters have always been the sort who are attracted to both men and women." Yu Shilang couldn't very well say it was his instinct as a gay man, so he only nodded lightly. "I know, but his expression, it genuinely showed aversion toward TXL. But he was drunk that night. A drunk man, what standard can you judge him by?" Leaning back, Yu Shulang rested his spine against the backrest of the chair, tilting his head slightly as a faint, helpless sigh escaped him. "That's true." Fan Zhou knew how to guide a conversation. He spoke with the concern of a true friend. "If you still have doubts, then we'll keep investigating." Yu Shulang's Adam's apple moved as he swallowed another mouthful of wine. The warmth of the steam had already tinted his lips a delicate crimson, and now, layered with the colour of alcohol, they gleamed even more alluringly. "Let's talk about it later." His eyes softened as he looked at Fan Zhou, sincerity shining through. "No matter what, I still have to thank you for today, Fan Zhou." He lowered his gaze, a faint smile curving his lips. There was both a sigh and a touch of gratitude in his voice. "Honestly, from childhood to now, no one has ever protected me like this." Fan Zhou's eyes darkened suddenly, shadows pooling deep within them. A flicker of regret stirred there. For someone always so eloquent and quick-witted, he now found himself at a rare loss for words. The regret was soon joined by a tender ache. How much bitterness must be hidden beneath such a light passing remark? "You're not about to cry, are you?" Yu Shulang gave him a sidelong glance, then let out a slow chuckle and muttered, "Fan Zhou, don't act like some fucking delicate maiden. Do you even know what the girls at our office say about you in private?" Suppressing the emotion that threatened to surface, Fan Zhou asked with deliberate nonchalance, "What do they say?" "They say you're the dark, scheming male lead type, that anyone who gets tangled up with you won't meet a good end." Yu Shulang leaned in toward the handsome man, his tone playful and teasing. "Tell me, what do you think they'd say if they knew you were actually childish and clingy, and that your eyes get red at the drop of a hat?" It was the first time Yu Shulang had ever taken the initiative to lean closer to Fan Zhou. There was a smile in his eyes, and within it, countless glimmers of light. Like a scattering of stars, Fanshawe stared, almost dazed, his voice lowering into something soft and distant. I don't care what they think. I just want to know what you think. Me? Yushulang pulled back, drained the rest of his wine with one smooth motion, and patted Fanshawe's shoulder with easy grace. Right now, I just want to sleep. He stood up and headed toward the guest room. Just as he reached the doorway, he turned back against the light, a trace of gentleness coloring his usually calm eyes. If you need anything at night, just call me. Yushulang couldn't fall asleep. Sitting up against the headboard, he rested there for a while. He thought about lighting a cigarette but gave up the idea out of courtesy. After all, he was a guest here. His thoughts drifted to Fanshawe's injured hand. Even though he had taken the prescribed anti-inflammatory medication, the doctor had warned that a fever could still develop during the night. Yushulang had been accustomed to tending to the sick since childhood and knew that high fevers often spike at night. After a brief hesitation, he rose to his feet, pushed open the door, and made his way toward Fanshawe's bedroom. Fanshawe's home was pitch black, like an icy, dark cavern. Using his phone as a light source, Yushulang found a wall lamp and switched it on. The dim amber glow invaded the heavy darkness, dispelling the unsettling blindness of the night. Fanshawe's bedroom was across from the guest room. Standing at the door, Yushulang lifted his hand, intending to knock, but after a brief pause, he slowly lowered it again. With a gentle push of his fingertips, the bedroom door slid open in silence. The dim lamplight slipped inside, spilling onto the floor by the doorway and forming a small trapezoid-shaped window of pale yellow. The person on the bed was buried deep under the covers. From Yushulang's angle, only sleek, dark hair was visible. He walked quietly to the bedside. Fanshawe was lying on his back, and in the dim light it was hard to tell if his eyelashes fluttered, but he seemed restless. When Yushulang gently placed his fingers on the man's forehead, he felt a layer of feverish sweat beneath his touch. Immediately, he heard a suppressed, low gasp. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Yushulang bent down slightly, his eyes filled with concern. Fanshawe opened his eyes. His face was half hidden in the diluted dark, his expression shadowed, indistinct. Yet behind that obscurity was something raw and aggressive. The slight lift of his eyes revealed a surge of unfathomable fervor. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. A hoarse voice stirred the hidden dangers lurking in the dark night. Didn't Director Yu say I could ask for your help? For some reason, a sharp sense of danger coursed through Yushulang. His heart gave a start, and he moved instinctively to pull his hand away. But the thought had barely formed when his wrist was seized in a firm grip. Director Yu, please help me, right now. Fanshawe grabbed his hand and pulled it swiftly beneath the quilt. His palm slid past the man's firm chest, down the lean line of his waist and abdomen, then continued lower until it stopped. Fanshawe! Yushulang's fury erupted in an instant. With a sudden surge of strength, he wrenched his hand free from Fanshawe's iron grip. Fuck your mother! He seized Fanshawe by the throat with one hand and with the other drove his fist down hard. The muffled sound of fist meeting flesh shattered whatever trace of ambiguity lingered in the dark. His anger had not ebbed. His fist rose again, but before it could strike, a large hand caught it mid-air, clamping down with force. Fanshawe yanked Yushulang toward him and spoke quickly. My left hand's no good. It doesn't work well. I couldn't get comfortable. I'm just asking you to help me out. We are both men, aren't we? It's just using a hand. What's a big deal? Hell, I'll give you a hand later if that's what it takes. With a shove, he pushed the person away, propped himself up with one arm, and sat halfway upright on the bed. He took a cigarette from the bedside and bit it between his lips, his voice still laced with resentment. Even if you don't agree, there is no need to hit people. He touched the corner of his mouth, hissed in pain. Standing by the bedside, Yushulang stared at Fanshawe in silence. The shock and rage in his chest slowly ebbed away, until only a weary helplessness remained. He sank down onto the edge of the bed, his back turned to the man behind him. Rubbing his face with both hands, he let out a long sigh. "Give me a cigarette." The cigarette came flying after a long moment, along with a box of matches. The flame flickered to life, then died again. Shulang took a long, deep drag of his cigarette. As the pale mist melted quietly into the darkness of the night, he spoke. "Fanshawe, I'm gay. I can't play this kind of straight man game with you." End of chapter 30.